after Donald Trump. But when you look at this treasure trove, look at how many people high up in the Trump campaign are now in federal prison. So we have Michael Cohen, the president's lawyer. We have Paul Manafort, the campaign director. Rick Gates, the deputy director. Michael Flynn, the national security director. They're all in federal prison. Robert Mueller locked them all up. And what we know now is that the Trump campaign was rooted in corruption through and through. And the impeachment inquiry shows us that that corruption didn't stop. It only continued once Trump and his cronies reached the White House.
Let me go to the other federal prosecutor. Cynthia, your reaction.
Well, I spent a lot of time this morning reading this document, and so the public understands most of it is blank. There's a lot that's not there. It's redacted. Right. So usually what we see when we have the releases, we see these black lines that go through statements. This one is just big, empty white boxes. So there's a lot more to this story that we don't know. For example, and that's what I think about is my compulsive self. Like, for instance, the Steve Bannon interview. There's only one interview. Well, Steve Bannon was interviewed numerous times. There's 3 Rick Gates interviews. He was interviewed probably 50 times. And so for me, because I'm compulsive, I like to read every 302 and compare it to the next 302, and we don't have that complete picture yet. And there will be more releases of documents every month. The people who are released here are going to be the witnesses in the Stone trial that's coming up. And so this information was going to come out, and hopefully by the time the Stone trial comes out, we get to fill in the blanks. There are some big highlights about how it's sort of the battle between the Ukrainians and the Russian Ukrainians and Manafort's motivations that are fascinating, and the way he was trying to spin it as the Ukrainians so that he could make more money with the Russian Ukrainians. And on some level, it does just muddy up the waters and make things difficult for the impeachment investigation.
I'm going to keep going with the attorneys and not save the best for last and come to Midwin Charles here.
Well, the first thing I would say is thank God for the Freedom of Information Act, right? Passed in 1967, which is an act that basically said that we as the public have a right to know what's going on with federal agencies so long as there is no issue of national security or law enforcement. So that's how these CNN and BuzzFeed obtained these memos, and thank goodness for them. But I want to take a moment to sort of underscore or echo Paul's point about the fact that Mueller did a very good job with locking up a lot of these people. As I look through these notes, one of the things that I noticed is that everybody mentioned in this, for the most part, is now a felon. And that is astonishing, right? When you're thinking about a presidential campaign, that just about every single person involved in this sort of scheme and chasing down a conspiracy, which Trump seems to be obsessed with, right? We see him retweeting many different conspiracies. But what I found so surprising is that these are people who are operating on a high level: the campaign manager, deputy campaign manager, foreign advisor, so many people who are now felons. So Paul is right. Mueller did do a very good job. And I think that that is clear when you read these memos. You see a group of people who were running behind the scenes and trying to find a way to cheat. I think it's important for people to step back from what's going on with Ukraine and realize that this is a man who was running for office and was looking for a way to do it by cheating. And that's very important to always remember throughout all of this. But you also saw in these memos a sort of real frizzer between Bannon and Kushner. There's some memos there that talk about Bannon angry that Kushner is out on vacation with a Russian oligarch and he wants him to come back. So there's a lot of stuff there that I think gives us a painting of what was going on with the Trump campaign.
You know what, dear audience, I lied. We've got 4 lawyers in this segment. Jennifer Rubin is a recovering lawyer, but she's also my colleague at the Washington Post. Jennifer, your reaction to all of this?
I think what it reminds me is that this whole presidency succeeded for the Russians beyond their wildest expectations. How did this whole thing start? It started with Konstantin Kilimnik, who is tied to Russian intelligence, dropping the notion in Paul Manafort's ear, perhaps it was a receptive audience, but nevertheless coming from Kilimnik, that it's not the Russians, it's all about the Ukrainians. This is preposterous. We know our entire intelligence community confirmed it's the Russians. We know that Putin was involved in the decision. It's the Russians. Nevertheless, by setting this bug into the campaign and circulating around to Trump, he's still obsessed with this. He is still doing, in essence, Russia's bidding by trying to, frankly, discredit the Mueller investigation, which pointed to Russia, and to implicate Russia's, the country that Russia is invading, which is Ukraine. So why is he involved now in an impeachment proceeding? Because he went back to Ukraine looking for dirt on Joe Biden, but also looking for that computer, that server that he thinks, because he was told it, is somehow in Ukraine or controlled by the Ukrainians. So it's Russia, Russia, Russia.
Right. And, you know, there's another element here in these documents that were released that I thought was rather explosive. And this is the one where it says, Gates said that after the Democratic National Convention in late July 2016, Trump and Gates were in a car transiting from Trump Tower to LaGuardia. Gates gathered that a phone call came in, and Gates gathered that during this phone call there would be additional leaks coming. Gates thought this because shortly after boarding the plane, Trump stated that more leaks were coming. This is whoever wants to jump in on this.
Well, guess what, Jonathan? The leaks came. So what these new documents reveal is that the Trump campaign was obsessed with obtaining Hillary Clinton's emails. And this is Paul Manafort, the campaign manager, Don Jr., Jared Kushner, and Donald Trump. Meeting after meeting, we got to get those emails.
Right.
And then Michael Flynn, again, the national or foreign policy advisor, says, look, I got intelligence connections. I got the hookup. I'm going to look into getting those emails. Right. And what do we know? We know that Trump made these speeches in which he seemed to have advanced knowledge that emails that Russia and Russian operatives stole, they stole them to help Donald Trump win the election. Donald Trump seemed to know when some of these emails were coming. Again, he said he had to have them. He got them, and he deployed those Russian-hacked emails to advance his campaign to get in the Oval Office.
Well, Paul, to your point, also in the documents, and I'm sorry I didn't show this before, this is element 4, Gates said Donald Trump Jr. would ask where the emails were in family meetings. Michael Flynn, Kushner, Manafort, redacted, Lewandowski, Jeff Sessions, and Sam Clovis expressed interest in obtaining the emails as well. Gates said the priority focuses of the Trump campaign opposition research team were Clinton's emails and contributions to the Clinton Foundation. And it goes on and on and on. These folks were, I mean, obsessed, I think, is too kind a word, Midwin, to say what they were trying to do in terms of getting these emails.
Right, getting these emails and also discrediting donations to the Clinton Foundation, which we all know is still in operation. And according to Charity Watch in 2016, has received an A rating and found that 88% of donations go to their charitable causes. And where is the Trump Foundation now? I mean, defunct.
Right. Buying portraits of your leader.
Exactly.
When these documents came out and talked about the links with Ukraine and the Trump campaign and the conspiracy theory and Manafort, I went back in time to July 2016 when something else happened, and that was the Republican